are back for another week of Behind the Lens. And I got to turn my volume down. I'm too loud. Don't laugh, Brian. Don't laugh.
Is it better?
Yeah,
Okay.
much better. For those of you that don't know, I'm Debbie Lynn Elias, film critic and creator and host of Behind the Lens, and you are listening to Behind the Lens live on Adrenaline Radio right now. AdrenalineRadio.com and AdviceRadio.com. You can find my reviews and interviews around the globe in print and online throughout the week, but every Monday you can find me right here with my trusty cohort, my sound engineer, Brian, at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And I guess that's all for the housekeeping stuff this week, Brian. As he nods, like you guys can see him nod in the control booth.
Well, you were addressing me, not the audience.
Well, that's true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Been a busy week. We've got great stuff coming up in the future, including excerpts of my interview with Oliver Stone. Yes, Scott Eastwood as well. Ladies, yes. Calm down. Yeah, his eyes are that blue. Who else? Oh, we've got stuff on Storks, Kelsey Grammer. So there's a lot of stuff, and with Toronto Film Festival around the corner, and then the final quarter of the year push for Academy consideration for films, there are tons of great films coming out, and I'm starting to see quite a few of them. This past week, I raced out of here on Monday and headed out to see a beautiful animated film called The Way North. It will be doing a limited 1-week run in Los Angeles and I think New York also. If you see it, listed at one of your art theaters, please, I can't recommend it highly enough. It's beautiful, and it is directed by the former assistant director from The Secret of Kells that was an Academy Award nominee. And they're hoping to push The Way North into Academy consideration. But that off the top of my head, that's a great one that's coming up. And I have to say, I'm setting the stage now for the coming weeks on the film Snowden. Oliver Stone delivers Academy Award-worthy, award-worthy film on Eric Snowden. Anybody that saw the Academy Award-winning documentary Citizen 4 by Laura Poitras, I can't recommend highly enough that you make sure you see Snowden when it hits theaters in a couple of weeks. Stunning performance by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The story is spellbinding. It takes us behind what we've seen on the news. It's in part based on the Luke Harding's book. Oliver Stone did the adaptation with the screenplay, and you'll get to hear some of the interesting things that he had to say, especially when I ask him about writing this screenplay when you've got your hands tied by the Espionage Act and charges that are pending against Snowden, whom he met with 9 times while he was working on the film. So stay tuned to Behind the Lens, because we're going to have more on Snowden, but definitely put it on your radar, people. It is one of the finest performances of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's career, and he will blow your mind when you watch him. And it's got a cast of characters in it, as all Oliver Stone films do. Each one is fabulous as the next, from Nick Cage to Scott Eastwood to Timothy Olyphant. Wonderful up-and-comers, Lakeith Stanfield, my buddy. Also Ben Schnetzer, who has the film Goat coming out as well. And for any of you that saw South Side with You this weekend, about the first date of Michelle and Barack Obama, Parker Sawyers, the actor who portrays Obama, is also in Snowden. So we got a lot of cool stuff we're going to talk about in the coming weeks, and some great interviews on the projects. But today, it is a real thrill for me. At the half-hour mark, we're going to have the fabulous Chris Klein live calling in. I had the good fortune to talk to Chris last week about his new film, Game of Aces. Most of you may remember Chris from possibly his first film, Election, Alexander Payne directed, or the American Pie franchise, and his indelible character of Oz. Well, Chris is all grown up, and now he stepped into a leading man status with this wonderful film called Game of Aces, written and directed by Damien. And I got to say a huge, huge thank you to Chris right now before we even get him on the air in about 20 minutes. Damien was supposed to do the show today, but because he is flying on a plane somewhere, Chris is stepping in to be with us live. So that's pretty cool. And I'm really thrilled about it because I think Chris is he's so much fun and he is so passionate about this film. And when he and I start talking about it, you're going to find out why. But before then, so what's up? What's up, Brian? You know, we've got...
I had an answer to your question about where the plane might be right now.
Oh.
It might be in the sky.
Well, thank you.
Just to clarify.
That was very astute.
Yeah.
You know, I have to ask you, a few weeks ago we started with the pizza pineapple survey.
Oh, yes.
Do we have any more updates on that?
And this is going to sound made up, and it's not. This is going to sound fabricated. I promise you it's not. I polled a total of 78 people.
Okay.
And it was tied.
Wow.
It ended with a tie. It really did. And I didn't want to ask any more people because I felt like that was perfect.
That is pretty perfect. That's surprising.
Yeah, it was for the longest time. No pineapple was winning by a landslide completely.
Okay.
And then pineapple caught up, and then for a while pineapple was winning, and then it kept switching off in that way. And then the last person that I polled said no pineapple, and then I looked at the numbers on my paper and I was like, wow, that isn't even.
Wow.
Nobody won. So the last vote was a no pineapple vote.
That's okay.
So that's where I leave it at. I think I've exhausted enough manpower and hours in this debate that no one's speaking about anymore.
Well, but I just wanted to get a final accounting here. For those of you, who want to find out more fun things like that, surveys like pizza and pineapple or other fun things, Monday afternoons, a few hours after we go off the air with Behind the Lens, Brian has his own podcast here on radio show and podcast because he goes out live as well.
Yeah, Nothing in Particular podcast show with my partner DJ. We do, like you said,
Nothing in Particular.
Nothing in Particular. I think last week we had a rapper guy on who was a lot of fun, and we didn't speak pizza with him. I forgot.
Oh.
My biggest thing right now is to bring back the big cheeseburger from Jack in the Box.
Oh God.
That's where I'm at right now. There's a lot of complications in my life, and I'm starting school tomorrow, but that's not as important as bringing back a cheeseburger.
Oh my. Oh my.
And let's jump. I'll introduce my own segment here.
Oh well, you do that because so I was actually talking to a friend and colleague of mine, at the Saturday junket for Storks. Talking about your segment.
What they say.
Number one, I want to give a huge shout out to Mike Sandoval and anybody out there. If you're looking for like a full entertainment site with, music and sports and film and all kinds of other stuff, check out Muse, MUSE. Mike Sandoval does a great job with it, and he's a really great guy. And he doesn't go for gossip and exploitation, which anybody that knows me knows I appreciate that. That is very important and key. But yeah, we were talking about Star Wars, and I know Mike listens to the show. And when he can't hear it live, I know he goes back and he watches the video of the show or listens on iTunes or my site or here on the Adrenaline Archive. But yes, he is another Star Wars fan, and he loves your segment.
Thank you, Mike, for enjoying the segment as much as I do, because I do a service for all Star Wars fans. You need not look at the calendar and hurt your feelings, because as of today, Star Wars Episode 8 is so long from now. It's 472 days, 12 hours, 50 minutes, and 8 seconds to go. And that 8 seconds is taking forever. Now we're 49 minutes. So we're a little bit closer, guys. But we do have something else coming out. Rogue One is 108 days away. 12 hours. Like I said, 49 minutes. So Rogue One is here. If anything, with the month of September starting up, Disneyland is going to stop with the 60th anniversary celebration, with the Diamond celebration. So I expect as soon as they clean up the park for the 60th anniversary of Disneyland, we're gonna start seeing a ton of Star Wars stuff, not just at the park, but I mean Disneyland in general. I mean Disney in general should start pumping out a lot of creative and cool things with the tie-in for Rogue One. And I'm
Well,
excited.
and we just talked about the other week, the marketing tie-ins that they're doing with Verizon, with, Energizer, so we got batteries, we got with Nissan.
Was it Nissan?
Nissan.
I was trying not to say which car brand because I forgot.
Oh, no. I think Nissan.
Okay.
So, and of course, General Mills and cereals. And so
and Gillette.
We should start seeing, an influx of Rogue One.
Deodorants. Which you made a very interesting point. I don't know if you made it or I made it, but it sounds like a you where they don't seem like they wear a lot of deodorant in the Star Wars universe. Everyone looks a little stinky.
Or maybe they're using deodorant because they're not bathing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of us made a point like that, and I was watching episode 8. I was watching episode. I can't. Oh, sorry, I'm not watching episode 8. There's no way I could.
Yeah.
I was watching episode 7, and I just couldn't stop thinking about maybe how much Luke stank to everybody there, especially after cutting up that one, or after Han Solo cuts up the I always forget the animal's name, the tauntaun, and places them in there. And if they don't bathe, then that's a whole different. See, after that conversation, I was watching that scene, going, okay, that's cool. But if they don't bathe, boy, that's not good juices to be all over you.
All I do is I plant one little seed like that, and look where it goes.
Oh yeah. I couldn't watch that movie without thinking, how much does he probably smell? That's how Yoda found him so quickly. It wasn't. It wasn't the forest. It was him. He smelled him as soon as he got off that plane. Especially that. Think about it. He smelled like the tauntaun, and then he was traveling in space, in the sticky tauntaun stinkiness with his suit on. I'm sure he's sweating up a storm. R2-D2 is lucky he doesn't have a nose.
It's and this just goes back to what Scott Hecker was telling us about his first job when he did.
He was a tauntaun. Oh no, he was the.
He did the sound. He was the sound. He created the sound for Chewbacca walking through the snow and the slush.
Yeah, he actually donned the feet of Chewbacca.
Yeah,
and was on
having his body drug through raw eggs. So we just have tidbits of trivia.
Find that episode. Go on the YouTube page. And find that episode because he not only was it Star Wars, but I mean he had a ton of stories. He was interesting.
And Scott will be back.
Yeah, they were talking about holding me hostage and doing another 4 hours here, but
you were hungry.
Yeah.
I know.
That's where the pizza.
That's where the pizza talk came from.
But that Star Wars, like I was saying, I'm excited. I know you're excited as well.
Very much so.
Yeah, so we're both looking forward to this, and next week it should be like I said.
And Mike Sandoval is excited too for Rogue One. He's like you. He's doing it. Rogue One is coming up, so we're happy.
Yeah.
But something else that makes me very happy is The Last Ship on TNT on Sunday nights. That is my television guilty pleasure is The Last Ship. And I am so thrilled because on September the 12th, the morning after season 3 finale, we're going to have one of the stars of The Last Ship. And maybe 2. Oh, yes. Al Cornell will be with us live to talk about The Last Ship. And for those of you fans of the show, you know that he plays one of the regional leaders, Manuel Castillo. And we've just undergone a very big coup and the dissolution of the U.S. government. So there's good stuff happening. So hopefully by the end, after that season 3 finale, and we have Al with us, we might get some insight into where season 4 is going to go. So I'm very excited about that.
And he's been on the program just voice recordings, interviews, snippets of yours. Yeah, so he's making his live debut. So that's September
12th. That's September 12th, after the season 3 finale on the 11th.
Yeah.
And then once they start shooting again and we get Bren Foster back, and everyone's favorite characters on The Last Ship, Bren plays Wolf. We're gonna get Bren on here live. So
the only reason I knew it was the 12th because the 11th is the official start of the NFL season. That is week 1.
Oh Lord.
That is week 1, and I am going to completely just disregard anything else that matters in my life for the next 16 weeks.
Okay.
Just to let you know right now.
Okay.
Depending on how the Niners do, I will either be in a grumpy mood or in a very excited
Well,
mood.
you can actually start working on a segment, for this show if you want, or for your own show. Football movies.
Oh, I've never watched a football movie.
Well,
And everyone tells me, Rudy, they tell me to watch Rudy. They tell me to
you have
watch.
homework.
Yeah, I do. I will peep out a football movie just for you.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to behind the lens, though, and what we're here for. Uh, and one of the films that is just taking it, the entire country by storm right now, just opened in an additional 900 theaters this past weekend. Hell or High Water. This screams Oscar, Oscar, Oscar. Jeff Bridges, I better see him nominated. And it may be a long shot, but Chris Pine, this film turns him into a star. The depth, the texture that he brings. Fabulous story of two brothers who they're trying to save the family ranch. What used to be a cattle ranch down in Texas, and because of the economy and drought, they're at the point of losing everything. But there is oil on the ground. But instead of letting it go into foreclosure and losing it so that the bank can get the benefit of the oil, the brothers come up with an interesting scheme of robbing banks to get enough money to pay off the mortgage. So basically, and they're robbing the money, robbing the banks that hold the mortgage on the ranch. Actually, quite clever. The script is written by Taylor Sheridan. All of you out there know Taylor Sheridan from Sicario. Directed by David MacKenzie. I sat down with David MacKenzie, talked about the film, but I also got to do a one-on-one Skype with one of my favorite cinematographers, GILES NUTTGENS. Giles has known David MacKenzie for 15 years. He has worked with him now. This is his sixth film. The visuals are absolutely stunning on Hell or High Water and are as much a character to the film as the individual characters themselves. So I had a chance to talk to him, starting with his relationship and working with David MacKenzie.
Yeah, he's fantastic to watch, and I hope it's the same for him. It's great to watch him develop as a filmmaker, because he'd only done he'd done a full-length feature, but it was a very very low-budget feature before we actually met. And so to watch that develop, and obviously we've grown together and we understand each other better, and we've both grown calmer and more experienced. That's been a really fantastic thing to sort of luck out with that. You find people that you enjoy working with.
So since they do have such a chemistry, and when I spoke with David, he said the same thing about working with Giles. And hopefully next week I'll have, put together some excerpts of my one-on-one with David, so you can hear that also, since Hell or High Water, I'm sure, is going to be ever increasing on the cinematic horizon in the coming months. But I had to ask Giles, what is the magic of the two of them? 6 films together, 15-year friendship?
The one thing I do want to say about David and myself is that although it is hard to reason, but I do think we shouldn't forget the David style and the long shots and things like that. But in a minute, the one thing that I always find is fantastically important is understanding the strength of the characters and when that needs to be brought out within a frame. And I do think that's an instinctive thing about, and I actually operate the camera, and I do that because there is no way, I spend time with actors. I spend time on, I'm around when rehearsing, I'm around when we're prepping. I'm very, very close to directors, so I have an idea what they want to create emotionally out of each scene. And so complementing that force, and it's what you're talking about, whether you put somebody big in the foreground and whether you let the other person drop off, or whether you balance the wind in the frame, is one aesthetic, but it does have, where you are emotionally, what you have to deliver on that particular scene, where who you should be pointing out at what particular point. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's extremely important. And David and I hardly talk about this. When we're there, we have a similar aesthetic in terms of searching for a frame, particularly in anamorphic. we were shooting anamorphic, we were shooting scope. But as I say, we don't actually have to communicate about this because we just know it's there. Because we're both close enough to the script and to the actor's emotion that we know, how we need to interpret that. And I do think it is why I operate. I can't understand not having that contact. If I was saying that, people talk about the landscapes and things, and I'm very proud that we shot in June with overhead light in the middle of summer.
Wow.
And it doesn't feel like that. And so I'm very proud that David and I managed to manipulate the schedule, and so that we didn't end up in this situation. I think there's one or two front-lit shots that I couldn't avoid because of a schedule, because we had some heavy days. But we did that quite well. But the important thing for the two of us is the fact that each day we just, the power of the frames and the matching of the power of the frames to the power of the people or the weakness of the actors at a specific point is very important and happens very naturally between David and myself.
Yeah, and for any filmmakers out there, a lot of what Giles is saying, very key to developing that relationship and getting that visual tonal bandwidth that resonates with your emotional tonal bandwidth. And as you hear Giles talking about shooting in June, and they shot in New Mexico. The story takes place in Texas. So it was a huge location scouting process to find New Mexico locations to substitute for Texas. And the reason they went to New Mexico, not only tax incentives, but more bang for your buck because of the visuals that you get in New Mexico. So, obviously, what did I have to ask Giles about? Location.
Yeah, I think you have to give a lot of it to the fact that we're on a reservation that is unbelievably beautiful. I did one other film out there years ago with Steve Buscemi. And it was sort of amazing working in New Mexico. It's the one incentive state where you get a lot back. Mm-hmm. Because all the other, like Atlanta, they just take everything away from you in the sense that there's nothing good to look at.
Right.
So unless you're shooting Prisoners, which is depressing and has a very, very strong emotional core, you're sort of fighting everything that's around you. It's the old thing of people going to Toronto to shoot New York.
Yeah.
It seems dumb. So, but, New Mexico isn't. New Mexico is absolutely staggering. It is unfortunately a little more like New Mexico than Texas. But I think we did quite well in trying to make that transition and trying to, replace Texas with New Mexico.
Was the bulk of the exteriors shot in Tucumcari?
No, so they all shot basically northeast New Mexico.
Okay.
Our core place was Clovis, because that's where we found 4 banks, because we needed banks to, without shifting the whole unit, we needed banks that looked significantly different in each place. And Clovis is a small enough town that you can actually use one corner as if it was a much smaller town, or big enough so that you can actually use it like it was a bigger one. Mm. So the most amazing thing in Clovis was that there was the last bank where Toby goes to actually pay the money back. And that bank is completely out of scale with the world around it. So there's this huge, very, very weird bank. I can't even remember whether. I don't think the exterior is actually in the film, but it is extraordinarily exterior. And so we got this massive range within a very, very small space. Basically we had to make a decision about which town we chose in terms of managing the best balance of 4 banks within a small area. The other place we looked in Las Vegas, where I think they did a lot of No Country for Old Men. Mm-hmm. But we were sort of quite keen on avoiding anything that would stir that in the memory of people. Mm-hmm. And then I think we looked in one other place which had very, very interesting, Clayton, which was very, very much like an old cowboy town and had 2 fantastic banks in it. But then it didn't just have enough of other elements that we needed for the film. Filmmaking's a practical thing. We can't take a day down to shift a whole unit when we've got a very limited amount of time with the actors.
Yeah, but part and parcel, and I think we have time to do this next one right now. Part and parcel to the location is finding the location, especially when you want that look of Texas because the film stays set in Texas, but you're not in Texas. And Giles is one of the cinematographers that actually will go on location scouts, intense ones. And that's exactly what happened here as they were first going to Texas to get the look and feel and sense of what they needed to replicate or find in New Mexico. It's a great process. So take a listen as he talks about the road trip and what they were their concerns were.
Yeah, so the great thing about, and I'll start off with with Taylor Sheridan's writing, because Taylor's got another film coming out which is called Wind River, which he actually directed, earlier this year, and the same thing. When Taylor writes about the effect of the environment on people. Mm-hmm. So whether that be obviously the border between the United States and Mexico, which is obviously because of the drug cartels and everything that works on Sicario, and I don't know whether he wrote Sicario 2. When he did Wind River, he shot it in Utah, and it was in the snow, and the snow was a very important thing in it. So the whole of the film basically is about socioeconomic decline, and that is caused by obviously dry lands, drought, the lack of ability to farm an area. And I think he wants to, each time he looks at that, he looks at the environment in a certain way, and he realizes that, the effect on the protagonist is so strong that he writes into the film that presence. Mm-hmm. And that presence is a physical presence. It's a hard presence. It's like us seeing the oil derricks at the beginning, understanding that the farmland is being taken over by oil, which is obviously a core part of the story. But also the fact that it's going through a depression. Any of the old ways of living are sort of disappearing, and this is the one generation, Toby and Tanner's generation, where their father farmed. They had cattle, but that doesn't work within a drought. Mm-hmm. So that effect, that weight, that oppressive weight of economic decline caused by a very, very difficult climate is sort of written into what Taylor, is what Taylor wants to explain. Taylor wants to explain that people's characters would change according to that. There's a desperation that exists because of that. Mm. And I think David MacKenzie, the great thing about David MacKenzie, and David's done this on almost every film, sort of drives me insane, but he's very strong about it. And I'm always it always takes me a little while to, I'm like, David, let's just do a dialogue, all right? Let's just deal with the events. And David is very, very strong on working, and it's a difficult thing to explain, but it's almost like the importance of the environment to the narrative. Mm-hmm. And then he almost takes that and he says, okay, I want to show this visually, but I also want to show it narratively. And at the beginning of the film, all of the signs that actually set up the economic depression that the state's going through, tell that story. But in fact, what's happening is we're viewing part of that at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it's a bit like subtitles, but it's actually there in front of you.
Yeah.
And David's very, very strong about that, and he was strong about that in when I first worked with him on Young Adam. He was strong about that in Perfect Sense. So it's one part of his filmmaking, and he's dogged about it. He's dogged about it. He keeps saying, I need this bit, I need this bit, I need this bit. When we're out on the road, he says, I have to see the Chevron sign, I have to see that, because I have to see it. So it's almost like discovering the landscape, discovering the social and economic decline, but through narrative elements.
And that is just part one of the road trip story. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to Behind the Lens. Again, I'm Debbie Elias, film critic and creator and host of Behind the Lens. And you are listening to us live on adrenalineradio.com. But if you're missing us live, just remember, all of our shows are archived. You can find them on moviesharkdoublour.com. You can find them on iTunes, and you can find them on the Adrenaline Radio archive. So please listen to us. You'll have fun. Trust me. Well, maybe. Right now, we're going to have a lot of fun because I am so thrilled to welcome Chris Klein.
Hey, how are you doing, Debbie?
I'm fine. God, long time no talk to.
Yeah, you bet. I was really happy to get bumped onto the show today.
Oh, my God. Well, Damien owes you big time here because Damien was supposed to do the show.
Yeah, he was. He ended up having to travel a bit. So they asked me if I'd step in, and I said, of course I will. Be a pleasure talking with you.
Well, because you know how much I love the film, and I want to make sure people can hear about the film, from either Damien or from you, because you are so intricately involved in the making of Game of Aces.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I tell you, we're so excited that this film is coming out September 2nd. It's been a long road, kind of straight up in the air. You know how little independent movies have to fight and I mean small independent movies, not a little fight. It's a big fight for the small independent movies. Have to fight to get some theater time, and the fact that we're going to be able to open up is just really cool. I couldn't be more excited.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the big fight for little movies. It's a big fight for anybody, because as I found out yesterday, Oliver Stone with his new movie Snowden that's coming out, distributors didn't want to touch it. They didn't want to take it.
Yeah, it's competition for everyone.
That's just it. So, you got somebody like Oliver Stone who's fighting for space, just like you.
Absolutely, and he's definitely dealing with some controversial subject matter there, which we are not. We are an action adventure film, of story-driven, character-driven action adventure film, and we're taking this back, Debbie, as you know, to kind of a different era of filmmaking, using practical effects, having a whole lot of fun, telling a really, really intricate story. We're a 3-character play out in the middle of the Mojave Desert, which was a really great character study.
This film would actually work as a play.
Yes, it would, and it's interesting that you say that because Damien had a couple of ideations of this movie before it was a film. It was a documentary project. He'd written actually a one character play surrounding this idea, and then he turned it into the film that we're going to see September 2nd.
Well, and as I described it, this harkens back, and it plays when you watch it like the Saturday afternoon serials.
Yeah, I was thrilled to hear you say that. I always am. That's exciting for us because, when we were making this movie, one of the goals was to make it feel like this was a film from a different era. And in this day and age of big CGI special effects, the magic that you can do, the digital cameras that you can apply with digital cameras. Sometimes the filmatic aspects of movies gets a little bit lost, and the cinematography, cinematically, this movie, Mark Christian, the DP, and Damien Lay really had a strong opinion about how they wanted it to look visually, and I think that they did a great job pulling it off.
Oh, I think it's beautifully executed. But to let all of our listeners know what is the basic plot of these World War I flying aces?
Yes, absolutely. So the movie's called Game of Aces. It is a story about an American pilot who's working in conjunction with the Allied forces in the Arabian Desert in World War I, circa 1918. And he's a rascal. Jackson Cove is a rascal, and he gets grounded. He says he's crashed too many planes, and he's assigned a job to go out into the desert in a Model T Ford with a British nurse named Eleanor Morgan to try and find a downed German pilot, Josef von Zimmermann, who is the greatest German fighter pilot of the era.
And of course, he's working for the Allies.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how much we wanted to give spoiler
well,
alerts
I
on
think
the
it's
show.
I think it's safe. I think it's safe to say that much because of all the twists and turns that then follow.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. The twists and turns of the plot of this movie I thought were just made the story so intricate and so interesting. More than just a linear structure that goes from point A to point B to point C. We have some fun twists and turns in there, don't we?
Oh, there are some fabulous ones. And the only reason I think it's safe to say, who, Joseph von Zimmerman is because of the fact that, okay, why would a nurse and, just some American pilot working with the Allies go out looking for this guy in the desert somewhere? There's got to be a reason.
Exactly.
There's got to be a reason, and that's the reason. But as is always the case, things are not always what they seem.
No, not always what they seem, and keep your eyes on Nurse Eleanor Morgan too, because when she arrives, you think, oh, okay, this is pretty interesting, and then the plot thickens. I really appreciate the work that Victoria Summer did in this movie. She plays Eleanor Morgan, and she just did a wonderful job, and the camera. So some of the images that we have of the character Eleanor Morgan really do help us feel like we're back in a different time.
Well, and a lot of those images. Number one, the camera just loves Eleanor. I mean, just loves
Yes.
Victoria. They love. And when you say keep your eyes on the character of Eleanor Morgan, Victoria is so beautiful, and the way her hair and makeup is done with very white skin, bright red lips, which is very indicative of the era, and the black hair, it just, the contrast, you can't help but keep your eyes on her.
It's true. Yeah, it's incredible because the camera really does love her, and they did such a great job with her look. I just, every time that I see this movie or see a still of some of the images there of this character, it just looks iconic to me.
It really does. And you see, with the character of Eleanor, not through your character, not through the character of Joseph, which is played by the fabulous, Werner Dahn, or Dane, however he says it in German.
Werner Dahn, yeah.
Dahn.
Yeah, he's so talented. We were so lucky to get him on this movie. He just really raises it to a whole other level.
But, the costume speaks so much, and it's Eleanor who actually has the costume changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the wardrobe plays a huge part, and I'm glad that you bring that up, as well as the practical effects.
Oh.
For a low budget movie, when Damien revealed to me that they were working in the middle of Missouri with a company called Aerodrome Aircraft Manufacturing to replicate a DR-1 Fokker and an SE-5 British warplane, I was amazed at the level of commitment, because they brought these planes out to the desert. They replicated a Model T Ford, and we have these props and these beautiful vehicles that are actually flying and actually driving through the desert. And the just the realness of the whole scene comes together when you have those practical effects. I was just so impressed by the level of detail in Damien's prep.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of doing things practically, be it effects, be it stunts. I'm very old school in that respect. And
Me too. We're on the same bandwagon.
it adds so much texture to the film when it's the tactile sensibility that comes across with the actors, that they're not, petting a tennis ball on a stick. When you have this, and the Model T stake bed is just, that is incredible with the detail on the interior as well as the exterior, and you even got to drive it.
Yeah. Yeah, it drove pretty darn well through those sand dunes too. They really geared that thing up well. I think they may have geared it up a little bit more modern than it would have been otherwise. But what's under the hood is we'll keep to ourselves.
But the interior of the car, though, from the floor, from the pedals, everything.
Yeah, the level of detail in that vehicle was spectacular. They did a really great job replicating that. And, again, when you have these set pieces, as an actor, there's nothing more fun because there we are out in the Dumont Dunes recreation area of the Mojave Desert in California. And we have these amazing sand dunes and this expanse that seemingly goes forever. We have this vehicle. We're out in the desert, and as an actor, if you're not immediately there as character, you may want to find a different vocation because acting might not be for you.
I mean, the visual is absolutely stunning. The vista that we see, the panoramic vista for miles around, it is breathtaking. And that had to have really put you into time and place. You throw on your bomber jacket, you see this Model T, you see the Nazi, plane crashed in the desert. That has to take you there.
All of a sudden, I was never not Jackson Cove. I was Jackson Cove my whole life. When you put all those elements together, I remember the first time that I saw the Dumont Dunes recreation area, and I was amazed at how it looked. I've never seen desert that pure, and we shot in January, which was interesting, and I had asked Damien. I said, we're using 100% natural light to shoot this movie, and you want to go in January? Why would we go in January when we're only going to get 6, 7, at best 8 hours of good natural usable light? And he said, because if we go in June, we'll die. So very good. He certainly had me on that point. And what was great about the light is that the low-lying winter light in the desert makes those shadows just spread across good and early throughout the day. And the lighting was just so spectacular. The desert just looked beautiful. All of us, the crew, the cast, everybody involved, every day at sunset, everybody was outside taking photographs and just drinking it in. It was really a spectacular place to be.
Yeah, and it just, one look at it on screen, and you just have to sigh and go, oh. And that's before we even get to see you. So.
Oh, listen to you.
Yeah.
I hope that that the listeners do hear that because to see a movie like this on the big screen is how it's meant to be seen. And I really hope people are able to get out to the theater to check it out the way that we meant it to be seen visually.
Well, I got to ask you about our World War I fighter plane. You didn't get to fly it, but is that actually you though driving it through the desert?
That is me driving it. Yes, that is me driving it. We did have a few situations where Hollywood magic had to take place, and we had to drag it. Once in a while, we needed a lead car, and of course for the stunts, how is it going to drive itself? We did use Hollywood magic for that as well. But when you see me throttling up, that is me driving the vehicle as much as it would drive, and stunting and all that sort of thing, driving, all of those sorts of things, just made it a whole lot of fun for all of us. Everybody shooting the film, Damien directing the film, me acting and stunting in the film. All of that was just fantastic, and part of practical effects that's so great is some of these young guys that were on the crew had really never seen practical effects in action, and they just had a ball. They just because everybody needs to be in a safety harness because we're going to be towing and we're going to get this thing up to speed, and then and then a cool stunt's going to happen. All that stuff is just so fun and so cool to be a part of. And for me, as an actor, that's really the fun stuff. The acting is always the reason that I'm there, and the reason why I love what I do. The stunting, though, that's the icing on the cake.
Oh God, yes. Absolutely. Well, I mean, when I was started out here in L.A., I was hanging out with all the old time stunt guys who did all the old John Ford westerns and 60s and 70s TV, and there's nothing like it. And they're the ones that got me into second unit stuff.
They're just a fantastic. They're a fantastic fraternity. I remember when I was a young guy coming up, and well, I should say a young kid. When I was a young kid coming up, and any time I could garner respect from a stuntman was a good day for me, because they're such a great fraternity, and they're such an important part of the movie making process.
Yeah.
Without second unit, so many movies don't get made, and they deserve to be. They deserve every accolade they get.
Oh, I'm telling you. But I still want to know, why wouldn't they let you fly the plane?
Okay, so
that disturbs me that you did not get to fly the plane.
And I appreciate that very much, and yes, it is disturbing. However, I am not a licensed pilot, and I am certainly not licensed to fly World War I replica aircraft. So the safety barometer for that particular stunt was high enough that we had to pull the reins on that one. There are things that you do need skilled craftsmen to do, and flying replica aircraft is definitely one of those.
And obviously Harrison Ford wasn't available.
That's it. He wasn't.
Oh my God. Now, you've been in this business, you've grown up in this business, and you have made this wonderful transition from youth now into a leading man action role, quite honestly. And as we talked about the other day, it's like I started seeing that progression, when you did We Were Soldiers. And, you expanded your comedy a little bit more in Just Friends, and then your TV one-offs here and there. But you've come into your own after all these years with that leading man action status with this role in Game of Aces.
Well, I'll take that. I tell you what, I'll definitely take that. I've waited a long time. It's partly an age thing. Because I started when I was 18, and the character like Jackson Cove, I couldn't play until just a couple of years ago. Did I have the right look and the right sensibility and the right frame of reference to build the character on? These characters are weathered characters. They've had life experience, and they've seen some things, and they're affected by it. And in order to play those as an actor, I believe you have to go through some life experience, if for no other reason than to look age appropriate for the character. And I'm really excited about this next chapter of my career, Debbie, because you're right. I am going to have an opportunity to jump into these roles that really, as a youngster, as a kid, these were the roles that I fell in love with in the movies. These were the roles that I went, you know what? If that's in fact an actor on the screen, if Indiana Jones is an actor, speaking of Harrison Ford, then I want to be an actor, because I couldn't imagine having more fun or feeling more cool than that guy must feel.
Well, you bring up a very interesting point. It's something that I have battled and complained about, especially over the past 20 years, because it's become more of a problem. Rather than looking at actors that do have the life experience to bring to and embody in a character, everybody, they're looking for name talent or big names, and I'd say at least 7 out of 10 times, if not more, the younger talent they're going for, they don't have that experience to bring that life essence to the character.
I think that's that's a very valid point. Though I have to admit I don't have a platform in that regard. I think a lot more personally because I am an actor. For me, it's about just as it was when I was a kid. Now when I was a kid, it was all about the right character at the right time, and I had a couple characters that I got to play that were the right character for the right time. I had the right voice, and I could embody that character appropriately. And now it's about doing that at 37 and saying, you know what, this is what I have to offer. I believe in it. I've honed it. And now I need to really search for the part that is the right character for the right time, and I have the right voice, and I can embody that character. And that's a search for me, Debbie, that is very, very empowering, and it leads to being creatively engaged almost all the time, because I'll be in situations as an actor, and I'll go, oh man, I need to log that. I can use that. In a character, and so the search goes on, and God willing, I'll be healthy, and I'll be able to do this for years and years to come, and then you and I'll be talking about me playing the grandpa, because I can now embody those characters,
and that'll be so cool.
And I really, for me, it's a marathon for me. And it's about the journey for me, and I think that's a beautiful gift that you get when you are an actor. That is you get to take all your life experience at the time and put it to good use.
So, I have to ask you, because I've been watching my Twitter, blow up today when I posted that you were going to be on the show, and you have a core audience out there from your American Pie days.
Mm-hmm.
What have you taken with you, besides this audience that is faithfully following you, now? What did you take away personally and as an actor from that franchise? Not too many people are lucky enough to have a recurring character in a successful franchise that spans a number of years, but you did.
Loads and loads of gratitude. You're absolutely right. To be a professional actor is to make a living as a professional actor is nearly impossible, because it's so competitive. To be an actor, to make a living as an actor, to be a career actor, to have a huge global franchise on your resume certainly is even more impossible than that. And I have one, and I do have a fan base because of that. And there's loads of gratitude. I learned so much going through that process. It's a gift that keeps on giving in terms of personally. People love those movies. My audience has grown up with me, and I hope that because of that, when they see my name attached to projects, they'll go, you know what, I really like that guy from that franchise. Let's go see what he's offering today, and we can just keep that symbiotic relationship going. That's my hope.
Well, and my hope with Game of Aces, it is so well designed that it could very easily be made into a franchise or a series. It has that kind of dynamic and storytelling to it. And I would love to see that, this develop into something beyond this first film.
I certainly would too. I really, really would too. And I appreciate you saying that so much, because Damien Lay and I have developed a wonderful relationship, not only a working relationship. He's become a very, very dear friend of mine. and we hope to continue our relationship, producing and developing pictures for movies and television concepts, and the Game of Aces concept is one that we really hope that we can keep rolling with. And for me personally, because I love the movie, I love the look of it, and I love Jackson Cove. I love playing Jackson Cove, and I would really love to revive this character and keep Jackson rolling.
I mean, he really does. He has that Indiana Jones kind of vibe.
Yeah,
He really
does. He
And
does, and the opportunity to honor some of those characters of my youth is a real treat for me, and to be of the age where I can do that is a real treat for me.
so now let me ask you, before I let you go and before we run out of time almost totally today, which is always so fun to do, what did you personally learn about yourself or take away from the making of Game of Aces?
That's a wonderful question, and I really appreciate you asking that. And for me, personally, what I took away from making Game of Aces is that I do truly adore character-driven storytelling. I love doing the stunts. I love all that stuff. And the action adventure of it all, I love. But I really truly adore character-driven storytelling, and it's inspired me to continue searching for that character-driven story, and it's inspired me to continue to keep searching for characters that are the onion, that I can peel back the layers, that the audience can go, man, I felt that, or man, I know what that is, or man, I really love watching that guy, that character on screen, and it's been really inspiring for me.
So now, besides being a new dad, which you have to learn how to tackle now,
Yeah.
what other roles do you have? What other roles do you have coming up after Game of Aces?
For me, actually, Lena, my wife, and my baby boy Easton, we're all going to travel up to Portland, Oregon, to make a romantic comedy this fall, which is going to be wonderful to be in the fall in the Pacific Northwest, or in the Pacific Northwest in the fall. And it's a romantic comedy that I'm really excited about. It's directed by a wonderful man named Harvey Lowry. It's called The Competition, and what we're doing in this movie is we're really asking the question: Is there really the one? Do we believe in the one? And I love that. I love that question because I believe in the one, and I'm one of the very fortunate to have found my one. My wife Lena is absolutely my son is amazing and a miracle. But none of it happens without my wife. She is the best thing that's ever happened to me by far. And so to tell that story with that point of view, I'm kind of excited to do. And to do a romantic comedy, Debbie, those are always a whole heck of a lot of fun. And I haven't done one for a while, so I'm really excited to get back in that genre.
And now with more maturity behind you, it'll be a whole new experience.
1,000%.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for calling in today. This has been just another absolute joy talking to you.
Oh, absolutely. It's been such a joy talking with you. I so appreciate the time and so appreciate your listeners listen to me chat on, and thank you very much. It's been a great time with you.
Oh, absolutely. And you'll have to come back on the show either when you're in production and shooting up in the Pacific Northwest or after you get the film done.
Hey, you got it. You can count on it. As soon as we're set, we'll give you a holler for sure. You can count on it.
Oh, fabulous. Chris, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
And that was the fabulous Chris Klein. And of course, this comes as no surprise to our regular listeners. We are out of time. Go see Game of Aces in theaters this week when it opens on Friday. Another film that I highly recommend that you go see that opens is The Light Between Oceans with Michael Fassbender. It is a beautiful, beautiful film. And we'll be back next week. We should have an in-studio guest. I'm not saying who it is because we've had a few that, due to shooting schedules, we've had to juggle things lately. But we'll hear more from GILES NUTTGENS on Hell or High Water, plus hopefully some from David MacKenzie. And until then, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.